Welcome, dear friends. Welcome to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. We are glad to have you with us today. My name is Judy Lucarelli, and I'm serving as worship associate today. We're a church of many welcomes, and let me start with a warm welcome to each of you. This is a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. As such, ours is an active church, and everyone is invited to participate in any of our activities. To learn more about events, our church calendar is on our website, uutarpon.org, or we'd be glad to talk with you during the coffee hour. Our children are with us during the beginning of the service at this time. We have faith formation programming available with our gifted leader, Jami Cruz. Children gather for their time together with her after the story. If you'd like more information about our programming, please contact Reverend Kristina or see Jami after the service. For those present with us in the sanctuary, we have connection cards available in the pews near the hymnals. If you fill one out and put it in the offering plate or give it to one of our greeters, we'll be able to keep in touch with you. There are also small cards to write any joys or sorrows that you would like to share with us, if you would prefer me reading them at the end of the service instead of you speaking to the microphone yourself. We are also requiring all people, all ages, to mask while indoors here at church. We're delighted to have Reverend Kristina Spaude leading the service today. Music is provided by our music director, Bonnie Whitehurst. Again, welcome.
We have an opening hymn at this time. In our gray hymnals, number 354, We Laugh, We Cry.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. To give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us, and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found a time to be together, and with the grace of age we have shared wonder of youth, and we believe that growth seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found our joy being together. And in our search for peace, may we will finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
When we introduce ourselves, it is helpful for those with vision loss and others to say some things about ourselves. So I am the Reverend Kristina Spaude. I use she, her pronouns and am a white woman. I have chin-length curly brown hair, parted on one side with blue eyes. And here at the church, we want to acknowledge that we are on the lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole peoples. We are making a lot of changes to the flow of worship starting this morning, as you may have noticed already. This has meant some rearranging of elements and some adding of others. One of those additions is of opening words, which I will share with you now. These words were written by the Reverend Marnie Harmony, who served as interim minister for this congregation about 10 years ago, and with whom this congregation has shared a special relationship. We whose journeys are always beginning, we whose mission always awaits us, we whose visions are bent on loving, we gather together here. We gather as a community drawn together out of common need, each toting our own carpet bag of treasures and dreams. We gather together seeking meaning, yearning to understand life in all its dimensions, as it challenges and expands, as it burdens, as it consoles and heals. We gather together with questions, the kinds of questions that provoke us to a path of action. We gather with hope, the kind of hope that pulses on through uncertainty. We gather with tenderness, the kind of tenderness that only can be born from knowing human capabilities as well as human imperfections. We gather wanting certainty and having none, but we are wakeful to possibilities as we seek discernment and gentle judgment. We gather then unbounded but close. We gather thirsting. We gather drawn to our source, our Creator. Amen.
We light our chalice with these words by Elizabeth M. Strong. Our Unitarian heritage bids us light our chalice in the name of freedom, in the light of reason, in actions of tolerance. We gather in community to celebrate a heritage of freedom, reason, and tolerance. Our Universalist heritage bids us light our chalice in the name of faith, in the light of hope, in actions of love. We gather in community to celebrate a heritage of faith, hope, and love. Let us bring this Unitarian Universalist heritage into our world and our lives today.
Hymn number 123.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the giving life the shape of justice. Roots holy close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our story today is called An Infinity of Questions, written by Janine Grossmeyer. This is a story about Maria Mitchell. Once there was a little girl named Maria who was full of questions. When she was 2, she asked, "What? What is that? And what is this? And what are those? And what are these?" Her parents answered as best they could. "That's a dog. This is a cat. And those are the dog's whiskers, and these are the cat's toes." Her parents gave her lots of answers, but she always had more questions. When Maria was 3, she started to ask, "How? How does this work? How does that happen? And how do we know how it goes?" Her parents tried as best they could. Boiling water makes steam, and steam pushes the lid off the tea kettle, and we know because we do. But how? Maria wanted to know. How do you know? Well, because we look at it and we wonder and we do experiments to find out the answers. You can do experiments too. When Maria was 4, she started to ask, why? Why do boats float? And why does it get dark at night? And why do cats have fur? And why do people wear clothes? Her parents tried to answer as best they could, but no matter how many answers they had, Maria always had more questions. She asked questions at home, she asked questions at school, she asked questions at the Quaker church where her family belonged. She asked questions of everyone she met. Hundreds of questions, thousands of questions, millions of questions, an infinity of questions from one little girl. Maria had an infinity of questions, and she also loved the infinity of the stars. In the evenings, she and her father would climb the stairs to the top floor of their house in Nantucket, Massachusetts, by the sea. Then they would climb up a ladder to get to the roof. I would not be doing this, I'm just telling you. On the roof, there was a small platform with a railing around it called a widow's walk. I think we can all guess why. From the top of the house, Maria could see far out to sea and far above her to the stars. Hundreds of stars, thousands of stars, millions of stars, an infinity of stars, and one little girl. I love the stars, she told her father, and they would look through a telescope to see farther out into the sky. Then Maria would start to ask questions. Where do stars come from? How old are they? Why do they shine? How many are there? How far away are they? Some questions her father could answer. Some he could not. So Maria set out to find the answers all for herself. She studied hard and read many books and did experiments, and she became an astronomer, a person who studies the stars. When she was 29, she discovered a comet, which was named the Mitchell Comet after her. The King of Denmark gave her a medal for discovering the comet. In 1848, she was named a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, which had never had a woman member before. But Maria was still full of questions. How do we know God exists?
We know when they
Is all
start
of the
that
Bible
question
true?
and answer.
Why are we here?
Question and answer.
Some people
No,
gave
it
her
isn't hard.
answers, but when Maria asked, "How do you know?" they answered only, "Because we do," or "Because we read it in a book, and so that's the way it is, and we shouldn't ask more." Maria didn't think those were very good answers at all. But the answers to her questions weren't to be found in books or by doing experiments, so Maria kept asking. One day, she heard a talk by a Unitarian minister named William Ellery Channing. He didn't have the answers either, but he said there was room for an infinity of answers to the infinity of questions, and the important thing was to wonder, not to know. Maria decided to join the Unitarian Church because those words woke up her mind. All through her life, Maria Mitchell asked, "What? And how? And why?" She became a teacher so she could help other people answer their own questions. In 1865, she became a professor of astronomy at Vassar College, and she taught other people about the stars. Sometimes they found the answers to the questions. Sometimes they didn't. But Maria Mitchell was happy either way, because the most important thing is to wonder, not always to know. We will sing our children to their programming with Jami if they would like to go. And if not, that's also okay.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the light of
Now is the time in the service where we take our offering for the work and welfare of this church. Ours is a free faith which must sustain itself financially. Please go to our website, uutarpon.org, and click the donate button, or mail your offering to the church at 57 Reed Street, Tarpon Springs, Florida 34689. Or, for those of you in person with us in the sanctuary, please place your offering in the offering plates as they are passed.
Today, for our offertory, we will be using our gray books and singing hymn number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though the pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dreams and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Another of the additions for this morning's service is we are going to hold just a brief moment of silence together. Today's service is different from services as they have been, not just because we are changing a bunch of things, but also because today is a question box service. These services have been a long-standing tradition in many UU congregations. They appear to have emerged from our religious educators, and all I could find is that they've been happening for at least 50 years. And I'm going to recommend my colleague who is teaching a religious education course at the seminary I attended that it might be a good project for someone to find out more. I want to be sure before I say to those of you that submitted questions, you all asked fantastic ones. I was so delighted. And though I won't be able to answer them all today, I will be using some of them in the weeks to come for sure. So in place of a reading today is our first question, which was, as we attempt to bridge our Buddhist and UU principles, when is it okay to be outraged, angry, and even hostile to acts so offensive as to be cruel and inhumane? Think Russia killing children and civilians in Ukraine. This is probably the easiest question for me to answer of those that I received. I will preface this by saying that my training after seminary and my congregational internship was as a chaplain. So the short answer to when is it okay to feel these things is simply whenever you feel them. It is always okay to feel how you're feeling. The longer answer, we are animals. Feelings and emotions are information. They tell us when something is good and something is bad. Feelings and emotions tell us about ourselves and our experiences of the world. Sometimes people refer to anger, sadness, and outrage, hostility, and fear as bad feelings or negative ones. That's not a thing. Feelings and emotions help us understand how to navigate the world. They are just a normal part of living and 100% natural parts of being human. Honestly, I cannot imagine not feeling this way, at least sometimes. I believe in the maxim that if you don't feel this way, you aren't paying attention. I will note that one aspect of feeling angry, outraged, and hostile is that it can be covering up other feelings and emotions. Anger, outrage, and hostility help us feel powerful. That feeling of being powerful gives us a sense of control. We sit or stand up straighter. We can feel our muscles tightened. And all of this can mask other feelings and emotions like sadness and fear. That's not to say that anger, outrage, and hostility are not appropriate responses. They absolutely are, and they have their place. But that is also not all of the story. The further question, then, I think, is what do we do about it? For me, this is where meditation and sitting practices can come in. Reflect on where the feelings and emotions are coming from inside of you. Reflect on the meaning you give to this. Reflect on what you can do. Let things move. When we act, may it be in a way that moves us forward. Let us strive to meet anger with anger only when it will have a meaningful outcome, and recognize that we will likely fall. Let our anger be fuel for change. All right. Question number 2. In the face of so many social injustices, threats to humanity, and fears for the future of our country, how is it best, or is it even possible, in light of the well-known diversity of interests and opinions among UUs, to set priorities and hopefully make meaningful contributions to what we face as a society and faith? And related question that I'll call 2.5. You have been a good resource for expanding UUCTS's awareness and presence in the local community and its justice and political challenges. Do you see coordinated, visible engagement by multiple congregants as an important way to be more effective in righting wrongs and creating change? If so, how do you see us proceeding? I think the easiest answer to the first part of these questions is simply do something. Anything. Just pick something and get to work. The question of prioritizing is an interesting part of this. Generally, I don't think it's important to prioritize. Do the thing that you connect with, are excited about, interested in, concerned for, whatever. That thing that you feel invested in, do that thing. Whether it's voting rights, reproductive rights, queer rights, saving cats and chickens, do it, because it all matters. As a congregation, though, it would be more effective to pick one thing for everyone to be involved in. Each of us in our lives, we are all doing something, and it's great and helps us find connection and meaning and purpose. 100% fully support this. And pretty much any group any of us would join has some kind of identity, right? Meditating, quilting, rescue, advocacy, kayaking, and so on. Does the meditation group lead prayer circles? Go whitewater rafting? Do they read books or watch movies together? Rescue chickens? Maybe they would do these things once, but mostly they wouldn't because it's a meditation group, right? It's not an activity group where they try new things every week or month. It's a group that comes together to meditate, learn new styles, have conversations about what surfaced, connect with others over shared experiences, and create shared experiences related to a common interest and identity. Obviously, a church is not a meditation group, and the idea of shared experiences still applies. That's a big reason people come to worship on Sunday mornings, right? We want to be with like-hearted people, often like-minded people, as we wrestle with life's big and small questions. I know this congregation is passionate about social justice. We share the plate every month. We're involved a little with different organizations and programs. Does it feel like we're making a difference? Probably not a lot. My bold claim in response to this question, to these questions, is that a good part of this is because the relationships are mostly superficial and transactional. No one is being transformed by what we're doing. That is very much not to say that it doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But it isn't transformative. And I think that's very much what most of us are longing for, to be changed, to feel what we're doing in our hearts, in our cores, in our spirits. We want to know that we are making a difference and that what we do matters as individuals and as a congregation. Connecting with an organization like Faith in Florida is great because they're passionate about so many of the things we are passionate about. But I'm not sure how transformative the relationship will be. I think it can be really great. We will only get out of it what we put into it, though. You know, I volunteer with a rescue. I support fundraising efforts, marketing, and relationship building mostly. I never, ever wonder if I am and we are making a difference because I spend my energy, skills, and knowledge with this organization. I know what we're doing. I feel how I have changed just in the small amount of work I do, by the work itself, and by the people I'm working with who have become my surrogate family. What's nice about a coordinated, visible engagement with multiple congregants isn't much about the effectiveness, but about the feeling of doing something that we get when there's a solid, identifiable outcome that's pretty quick, and that sense of a shared experience. Because all of the work matters, whether it's a big thing or not. What's different is how we feel about it. My thought about prioritizing: get a big group together and start talking. Pick something and dig in. Or just get excited for now about supporting faith in Florida. We decide we don't love it, let it go and pick something else. There is no shortage of opportunity to bless this world. Question 3. I sense a particularly strong resonance in your personal empathy and concern for the differently abled and societally marginalized. Do you hope to infuse this concern more deeply into the social justice program for UUCTS? Before I answer, I want to say that overwhelmingly, disabled people don't like being called differently abled. Just call us disabled. Short answer to this question is no. Longer answer: if my beliefs became more deeply integrated into the social justice program, cool. But what I actually want is for it to transform each of you as individuals and us together as a congregation and a community. So social justice? Yes, cool, sure. But also very much membership, pastoral care, worship, faith formation for all ages, marketing, committees and councils and teams and the board. I want to see everything and everyone transformed. Maybe a high bar, but whatever. We dream, right? That's why we come here on Sunday mornings, we dream. What I have learned and experienced is that the more that disabled and other marginalized and oppressed peoples and their experiences are centered, the more everyone benefits. Do you know who benefits from wheelchair cutouts in conferences and other gathering spaces? Disabled folks, yes. Elders too. Do you know who else? Parents with children, especially those in strollers or carriers, but others sometimes too. Do you know who benefits from moving from a popcorn-style response to one of a circle where participants call on each other? Everyone. Everyone gets called on. And the introverts, people with cognitive disabilities, people of all ages get more equitably included. So everyone benefits. I love how this congregation has been dedicated to accessibility because our elders need it and benefit from it. And I hope that we together continue to build on those strong practices you've already established are important to you. Question 4. You have said you're a non-theist, but you talk about God sometimes. Why? This seems like a straightforward question, but for me, surprising probably no one, especially at this point. It's more complicated than that. I want to start with addressing the non-theism so we have a shared language. Non-theism is absence of belief in God or gods and is often described as apathy or silence on the subject. This is different from atheism in nuance in that atheists don't believe in the existence of a God or gods, period. Non-theism, along with that mysterious reverberation that's happening right now, has gained a lot of usage in the last decade or two in response to authors like Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, and others who I often refer to as militant atheists, and many of us feel like have ruined atheism. Thank you. Can you still hear me? Okay. Sound changed very dramatically all of a sudden. Their emphasis on no God is so intense that it seems to border on the same intensity as the fundamentalists and evangelicals they so often rail against. So this tells you a little bit about my beliefs, but I want to add that when I describe my own theological view of life, I also note that my various beliefs of non-theist, humanist, and universalist are understood in a framework of process relational theology and collective liberation. I love the way that Monica A. Coleman describes process relational theology, so I'm going to quote from her work, Making a Way Out of No Way, a Womanist Theology. In it, she writes, process theology offers a postmodern theology based on the philosophy of mathematician-philosopher Alfred North Whitehead. In process theology, everything that happens is a product of the past, what's presently possible, and what we do with those things. Whether you are a quark, an amoeba, or a person, you undergo this continual process of sorting through these three inputs: what you inherit from the world, what's possible in your context, and what you do about it. She continues, God is the one who offers the possibility to the world, urging us to choose the paths that lead to a vision of the common good. While the principles of God's vision do not change, the way it gets played out on earth depends on what is happening in the world. God takes in or incorporates the events of the world into who God is. In short, our experiences in the world influence who we are and what we do. We then go on to influence those around us. What we do affects God and how God relates to the world. For me, my closest understanding of God is not a supreme being or divine presence so much as the process, the change, the possibilities available to us, and the co-creation of the life and world we know. My approximation of God is God as verb, not noun. This is the way I access and process God language, and I very much recognize this is not an understanding everyone will get. More importantly, that doesn't matter. My beliefs inform how I understand the world and my experiences. And while these are my beliefs, I don't dare assume these are everyone's beliefs. I have no doubt there are others here who find my beliefs compelling, and others who think they're nice for me, but not for them, and others who have no idea what I'm talking about. And maybe some of you have completely different ideas. It's because I don't assume that everyone shares my beliefs, and because I know that UUs often excuse ourselves from being part of important conversations because we are uncomfortable with and or are on some spectrum of disliking or hating religious words and concepts, that I continue to use this language. So both for people who may be theistic, that is, those who believe in God or gods, however they understand that, and for good practice in exploring God language from what is likely an untraditional perspective, I will use works that refer to God and create them myself. My work as the minister of this congregation isn't to convince you all of whether God or gods exist or not, or that my beliefs are the best beliefs, or how we should all understand the world, or anything like that. My work is to offer comfort and challenge so that we all might find what we need to live good and better lives. Better in the sense of always striving to do the next best or right or better thing. So related is question 5. I have grown to give less and less credence to Bible stories from either the Old or New Testament, especially with respect to stories of miracles. I expect this is not an uncommon experience for most UUs. Do you see this as a potential downside for reliance on our acknowledged biblical sources, especially when they speak of or reference supernatural events in your preaching? Short answer: I didn't grow up in a church or with scripture as any part of my life, so it's never been my go-to source for anything. Longer answer: in seminary, I took a class on the Christian scriptures, often referred to as the New Testament. And one of many side notes, I don't refer to the New Testament because it is supersessionist. That is, the old versus new descriptors suggest that the new one is better than the old, that it is more correct or right than the older works. I don't think that's true. And referring to Jewish scriptures and Christian scriptures has its own pitfalls, but that's what I use. That'll be another sermon someday, right? A couple of my thoughts about what the scriptures are. First, the scriptures are written recordings of how people have wrestled with, sometimes directly, as is the case of Jacob, who wrestles with God and is renamed Israel in the morning, God as well as other humans and the world. Some of it is pre-internet ancestry.com with super long lists of lineages. But most of it is stories about how people grappled with their lives and their struggles to make meaning of their experiences. Second, when I was in my Christian scriptures class, we were told that, at least for the class, we had to understand the scriptures as being true. I don't remember a lot of that conversation because I was really struck with that proposition, and who knows where my notes are. But what I have concluded is that the Bible is true, which is not to say it is factual, but it is true in the way that it has truth. Fiction isn't factual either, but that doesn't mean it's not true. The ideas, the feelings, the emotions, thoughts, all of it, those are all true. Maybe we just start thinking about it as historical fiction. Third, regardless of the dominant narratives, I'm not sure there's any solid evidence that those who recorded and then have translated scriptures have assumed that it was all factual. There's plenty of metaphor in it, and I think we are really underappreciating other people when we assume that their thinking was as black and white as it has been made out to be. In fact, I feel like it's a pretty bold claim that we assume the only people who were considered smart enough or had the right qualifications to be educated and could therefore write didn't have appreciation for the complexities of imagery and metaphor that we have today. Let's just take the story of the virgin birth for an example of a miracle. Do I think Mary was a virgin? I have no idea. But the story that is told is that she is. The story that's created is one that says that Jesus then is a miracle. Mary's story becomes that when she was chosen to have this miracle child who is a gift to the world, Mary becomes the perpetual mother and is ever remembered for her virgin status. The collision of those two ideas gives us an impossible ideal, one that women still struggle with and against today. I think part of Mary's allure is that she embodies, literally or figuratively, that impossible ideal. And all of this gives some clout to Jesus' story, a man born to the most humble beginnings, becoming the savior of the world. Mary's story had to be impeccable too, to be so convincing. Is it real? Human biology doesn't work that way. Is it true for people though? Yes, absolutely. Are people more comforted by the possibility and the promise as it has been told this way? So much so that more than 2 billion people identify as Christian 2,000 years after these events. All of that being said, I think we do a disservice to ourselves to not be more biblically literate. I say this as among the least biblically literate among you, I'm sure. I recently watched the TV series Breaking Bad, which it turns out is a lot older than I had any idea it was. People are using flip phones and stuff, and I was like, what is this, 2006? It was 2006. The reason I was interested in watching it and then sticking through it was because I hadn't had that cultural knowledge before. I haven't had a TV in 20 years, and I don't miss it. But I do miss a lot of things because I don't have one. All of that stuff is shared cultural knowledge that millions of people have, whether it's Breaking Bad or the Twilight series or Lost or whatever. To be part of conversations, we have to have some level of cultural knowledge to be effective and engaging. It's estimated that about 2/3 of Americans are Christians, and who knows how many of us don't identify as Christian anymore, but were raised that way. What do we think the percentages are for the number of Americans who are Christians who also hold positions of power? Legislators and judges, yes, and also attorneys, doctors, executives, lenders, media moguls, directors, producers, educators. And whether we like it or not, whether we agree or not, many of these people center their lives on their beliefs the same way we do, but with a vaguely shared understanding of common stories. Sure, they vary by translation, preacher, denomination, and so on and so forth, but there are core stories they share. And whether we like it or not, that is a conversation we aren't a part of when we opt out of it. We are a minority among minorities religiously. How many people of color get to opt out of whiteness and white supremacy? How many women and other people with marginalized genders get to opt out of patriarchy? How many people get to opt out of capitalism and predatory behaviors? Sure, there are ways to change things from the outside, but changing from within is another strategy. We can't do either well if we can't be a part of the conversations or follow them. We can't be part of the conversations without some shared cultural knowledge. Sometimes people say they aren't political. I don't know how that can be when everything in our lives is politicized. Lunch programs? Political. Housing shortages? Political. Climate crisis? Political. Reproductive rights? Really? How teachers are supported? Who even becomes a teacher in Florida and elsewhere now? It's all political. When we can say, Micah says, "What does the Lord require of you? To act justly, love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God," we're probably going to have a little more credibility than when we just say, poor kids deserve to be able to eat without being shamed. I don't expect anyone in our congregations to engage with Christian scriptures any differently than I do with any other scripture or holy work. I'm not asking people to believe in miracles the way that they are recorded, but I do think it's important for us to acknowledge their importance in our lives. I'm not sure that I answered all of these questions the way you had hoped, but I do hope that you found something in my answers that spoke to you or will serve you. And I also very much hope that if you have additional or further questions, that at some point you will share them, because they have truly been a gift. Our closing hymn is number 1003 in the teal hymnal, "Where Do We Come From?"
Each line is repeated, and when we get to the last line and repeat it, we'll begin at the beginning again. 1, 2, 1. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do
you are joining us for the first time today, I swear I don't normally talk quite this much. Before I get to the closing words, I was asked, what are you referring to when you invite people to join you on the road called hope? And what do you mean when you say the road called hope? For me, the road called hope is an interesting image. Roads help orient us, direct us, navigate us through the world. Hope is also a way to orient ourselves, a way to be guided, to remind ourselves of our values and aspirations. The road called hope helps us move from here to where we want to be, to who we want to be, to what we want to do. And I think the reason I fell in love with these words is because of the way and what they are together. It's not just about a road called hope. When we are making our way through the unknown, the road only exists in the past, behind us, under our feet. Like I was talking about a little with process relational theology, the path or the road in front of us, the future, is not set. It is to be made. So the road itself does not exist, but as people move upon it, it comes into being. Not a person. People requires at least two, probably more. A pair, a trio, a gathering. People implies the likelihood in this context who have some level of commitment to each other. Why else would they be on the road if not together? And they move. The original language is walk, but I know not everyone walks, so I say move. Forward, backward, sideways, or upside down, no judgment. But they move together. They are making the way as they go. I love it because this is how we make change, because this is what it looks like and feels like to be a covenanted people. We make the way as we go, and we go together. We are always better this way than we are alone. And so, the closing words. In The Gift of Faith, Jean Harrison Newyer has written, in the lore of ancient China, there is a story of a philosopher who was asked, where is the road called hope? He replied, it does not exist, but as people move upon it, it comes into being. I invite you to continue moving on this path full of questions and hope with me.
We hope that you found meaning in today's service. We close with these words by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. When we take fire from our chalice, it does not become less, it becomes more. And so we extinguish our chalice, but we take its light and warmth with us, multiplying their power by all of our lives and sharing it with the world.
Tell me why the stars do shine. Tell me why the ivy twines. Do you know the way to San Jose? I've been away so long, I may go wrong and lose my way. Do you know the way to San Jose? I'm going back to find some peace of mind in San Jose. Is that all there is? Is that all there is? If that's all there is, become of the broken-hearted who had love that is now departed? Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care? How much is that doggy in the window? The one with the waggly tail. How much is that doggy in the window? I do hope that doggy's for sale. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing. Where have all the flowers gone? Long time ago. How does it feel to be on your own with no direction home, like a complete unknown, like a rolling stone? Who put the bump in the bump-a-bump-a-bump? Who put the ram in the lamma-damma-ding-dong? Who put the bop in the bop, shoo-bop, shoo-bop? Who put the dip in the dip-da-dip-da-dip? And what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? People, you got to let me know. Should I stay or should I go? So many questions in a row. Now should we stay or should we go?